Hello everybody, this video is entitled Former Favorites Down 50%, down even more than 50% in the case of Duolingo. Is there some value in these former favorites? These two stocks, so let's begin with ServiceNow. These two stocks have been darlings of the market in the past, and the market seems to have sold them off. ServiceNow particularly was a darling of the past 5 years, if you ask me. Lots of praise from TradFi, from traditional Wall Street. And it seems like traditional Wall Street has convinced itself that people are just going to vibe code an ERP. They're just going to vibe code all of these workflow processes that ServiceNow provides. And thus ServiceNow is going to be made obsolete. It's incredible to me that ServiceNow is now entering what I call a buyable territory, which is an EV over GP over RG of under a 0.5. If I were to remove the rounding, I would be at a 0.49-ish something. So I find ServiceNow almost just entering the buyable territory, which is crazy for me, because when I first covered this stock a year ago, this stock was way too expensive for my taste. It was trading at an EV over GP over RG of a 1.08. It's now trading at a 0.8. The valuation got halved. The valuation got halved because the market, to use a Gen Z word, the market trades on vibes. And the market seems to be thinking that, to repeat vibe, they're going to vibe code. You're going to vibe code the apps. You're going to vibe code a CRM system. Right? You may in a former video I show, you may remember, so you have Monday.com who's way down because there's like a big template in vibe coding called Tuesday.com, which pretty much copies Monday.com. So it's called Tuesday.com template. And so the narrative is strong, but the problem is when you look at the company under the hood, we're not seeing that. Right? We're not seeing any change in revenue. In fact, this company is still predicted to grow. They had their Q4 earnings. They're still predicted to grow revenue by 20% over the next 12 months. So barely a deceleration from 2 years ago where they're growing at 22%. So 20%, 20%. So they're growing at the same way. Growth is not going to stop right away because this company has long-term contracts. Always ask yourself, is your company dealing with customers or is your company dealing with hostages? In the ERP world, your customers are very often your hostages. It's not like they can go anywhere else without taking big risks, without, risking losing a lot, right? Nobody wants to rip out old system in an enterprise. People are very risk averse in IT in enterprises. And so if you look at the numbers, not only they're predicted to grow 20% next 12 months, but they have remaining performance obligations of 28 billion. So that means they have, and half of it is already contracted out. The other half is to be built out, but they have 28 billion of revenue incoming from contracts that they have signed. They have recurring revenue, 98%. This actually ticked up. Last quarter it was 97%. Now it's ticked up to 98% renewal of subscription. So it's all a subscription business. And frankly, ServiceNow is kind of the only ERP that is growing right now, at least from a traditional sense of ERP. What is ERP in a traditional sense? From comparing it to Salesforce or to SAP, ServiceNow is growing much faster. ServiceNow is achieving a rule of 40 with a 56. We are at a 56 at ServiceNow. So I think this stock just entered a buyable category. I'm not buying it right now because there's so many cheap stocks out there, much cheaper than this. So many stocks much cheaper than this. But this is a Wall Street darling, and so clearly, despite the crash that we have in growth stocks across the board, right? All growth stocks are way down. This company is still showing a premium price compared to all of the other growth stocks who have crashed way more than ServiceNow. So ServiceNow could almost be seen as stable. Go look at the performance of companies like I don't know, Bill.com or Monday.com. It's so worse than this. It's so worse than this. So even Microsoft not doing too well, right? So it's kind of crazy. This SaaS apocalypse has taken all these stocks down. But of course, I'm a hypergrowth. I'm a cheap hypergrowth snob, and this is not cheap enough. Moving on to Duolingo. So Duolingo, I had covered a little more than 2 years ago, and when I covered it, I did 3 videos on Duolingo in the earlier days of the channel. And if you would have embarked on the Duolingo story when I covered it, so that was like June 2023 was I think the last video I made on Duolingo. You would have been on a roller coaster. You would have been up like a 4 to 5x, and then you would have been all the way back down. And to a slight loss. So this stock has been the very definition of a roller coaster, and I'm of course referring to the stock price, because under the hood, this stock is firing on all cylinder. I listened to the Q3 call actually, and I'm seeing no hurdle to growth. Back then, when I covered it, they had 20 million daily active users and 4.8 million paying customers. Today, Q3, as of Q3 2025, they have 50 million daily active users and 11.5 million paid subscribers. So, nearly a 2x in a little more than 2 years. So it's pretty remarkable, if you ask me. It's a pretty remarkable growth. I don't think the growth is showing any sign of slowdown, but the stock price has been impacted by narrative. What is the narrative? The narrative is, it's a twofold narrative. First of all, is folks will learn languages via ChatGPT. That's the first narrative. And then the second narrative is that folks will stop learning languages altogether because of the live translate features of AI. You may be, for example, annoyed with YouTube videos. You may have noticed YouTube videos are already implementing auto-dubbing and auto-dubbed content in the language of the country of your location. And so people, for example, people who are saying that AI will negate the need to learn foreign languages, well, I think they're forgetting the fact that AI will negate the need to learn anything. I mean, AI kind of negates the need for you to go to medical school and learn about medicine, because you can just use an AI. Negates the need for you to learn coding, because you can just code with an AI. But people still want to learn. People still want to learn. And I would argue that out of all of the things that people want to learn for the sake of interest, for the sake that it is interesting, I would put language up there, right? I think if you look at the things that people want to learn out of their own desire, their own volition, right? I think there's a lot of people who want to learn a language for fun. I'm not sure there's that many people who want to learn coding in Rust for fun. Maybe some. But it's very, very rare. If you look at the vast majority of people, they want to learn for fun. And language has, for the longest time, been one of the things that people want to learn for fun. When people travel, they want to learn a few words of the language, and they want to speak that language. It's a very universal thing, if you ask me. If you look at language learning, it's a top hobby. It's always been a top hobby. In fact, if you look, for example, at New Year's resolution, learning a new language is a New Year's resolution, just like going to the gym, for example. That's why Duolingo actually had a big Chinese New Year event in China with a partnership with Luckin Coffee, etc. They did a bunch of things because it's a New Year's resolution, learning a new language. It's a big hobby. If the people I know are to be believed, I believe a lot of women love to learn languages. I think it's something that a lot of women love. I think men too, but men may be more likely to do things like math or chess, which is, well, I feel bad saying it like that, but I think learning languages, learning foreign languages, is super popular with women. I'm not saying it's not popular with men. I'm saying it's probably less popular with men. But language can be anything, really. It can be math. And of course, Duolingo is trying to launch that. Duolingo has had a lot of success with chess. Like a lot of people actually learning chess and liking chess. So there's a lot of things you could learn. And I think people do it for fun. And Duolingo, of course, is organized as a game. It feels like a game. Have you ever tried the app of Duolingo? In my view, it feels like a game. It's got these noises. It's gamified. It's got this cute bird who keeps sending you an email to get back on the app. Anyways, and then Duolingo. Duolingo has lots of 0 to 1 moves to it, which, of course, right now the story is, people will learn English on ChatGPT. So right now that story is entirely negating the 0 to 1 moves. They're not even priced in the stock. But the 0 to 1 move of Duolingo is, of course, the disruption of K through 12 education. So, from early childhood to 16 or 17 years old, what in the US we called K through 12 education. That was the original thesis of Duolingo. I think Duolingo could achieve that. And you may say, well, there's always going to be, education. Well, in the West, there's a lot of education. Duolingo, don't forget, as a very, very big market in emerging nations. Where K through 12 may not be as developed. Also, you have a lot of people who complain about public schools. It's entirely possible that you're going to have a lot of people who, in addition to going to public school, are going to learn math, learn history, learn whatever on the Duolingo app. Also, Duolingo is trying to disrupt English tests. Now, it may seem trivial to talk about English tests, but, that English has to go to the university, English has to get a job. The fact that they're disrupting that is actually a pretty big deal. These used to be the belonging of very big companies who used to do these things like TOEFL. That was one of them. I can't remember all of the name of these tests, but they were owned by big organizations like Pearson's, like Thomson Reuters. They would administer these tests for, I'm not sure Thomson, but the type of company. They used to own these tests. Now they're disrupting these tests that used to cost like $200. Now the DET, the Duolingo English test, is disrupting that. So down the road, what if they come up with something like a GED with some sort of certificate that validates more entry-level education? Duolingo is not dealing with universities. It's not going after universities. I think it's going after whatever education you get from a local school district, which may or may not be very good. And of course, that's the 0 to 1 story of Duolingo. But that story is not even beginning to be factored in the stock price, because right now we have to contend with the main view that people will stop learning languages altogether and will be okay with YouTube translating and YouTube auto-dubbing everything for you. And I can tell you, a lot of people hate that auto-dubbing feature. A lot of people want to listen to original content. A lot of people want to listen to original movies. It's so I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that language is going to be disrupted by AI. I think language will be one of the skills that people keep learning for a very, very, very long time. And lastly, let me conclude with the stock price. EV over GP over RG for Duolingo at 112. That's a 0.18. 0.18. So we are now firmly in dirt cheap category for a stock that was a former darling of the market. And the rule of 40 is there with a 47. So my game plan for Duolingo is I'm waiting for Q4. I think it's the week after next week. I'm waiting for Q4. Q4 is likely going to be good, but the market reaction is all over the place. So I don't know what market reaction is going to be. And then if the market reaction is very negative and the earnings are good, and all of this narrative doesn't hold true, I think this stock could potentially be a buy, at least for me. But I'm being very picky adding anything to the portfolio right now because there's so many deals out there, right? That's the opportunity cost. There's so many deals. If you allocate $1 to Duolingo, you can't allocate it to HIMS, for example, or strategy, right? So many growth stocks are cheap right now. And I still don't trust this market, by the way, because this makes absolutely no sense. How could a stock be down so much just on a narrative? Just on a narrative. That makes absolutely no sense. It's kind of scary, actually, how dumb the market has become. Anyways, this was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is mostly entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.